Moto versus Moto, X versus X, Style versus Play. Motorola is one of the most spoken about companies when it comes to picking a budget-friendly smartphone without compromising for the spec sheet too much. This has been consistent throughout the years, and the trend also shines with the release of the company's brand new Moto X Play and the Moto X Style. And although both of these handsets feature quite some similarities, there has to be some differences as well due to their different names. And that's what we're here to discover today in this video. Hey, what's up guys, you're watching TechAM here, and here are all the differences, well, at least the main differences between the Moto X Play and the Moto X Style. Kicking things off, you have the display. Now for some people this style will seem like the better phone just because of its higher resolution of Quad HD compared to the Play's Full HD. However, that isn't always the case, since by what I've seen, both look like fantastic displays that won't disappoint to the naked human eye. The Play of course does have a lower pixel density of 403 pixels per inch, whereas the Style has an incredible 520 ppi. The size of the display, however, is also a factor in determining the pixel per inch count, which leads us to the fact that the Moto X Style touts a 0.2 inch larger display size of 5.7 inches. Now, although this may seem like a huge display, it's actually not much of a deal breaker, since the bezel is actually tremendously thin, which allows the phone to have a relatively small footprint, even smaller than the iPhone 6 Plus, which has a smaller display. Now let's jump inside of the phones and take a look at the processors. So the Moto X Play is housing a Snapdragon 615, which is actually making a really good appearance in quite a number of budget smartphones this year. So the 615 is an octa-core system on chip clocked at 1.7 GHz, giving it a lower clock speed than the Snapdragon 808 found in the Moto X Style. Now yes, the Snapdragon 808 is a hexa-core processor, meaning it has 2 less cores than the Snapdragon 615, but don't get me wrong, the 808 is actually one of Qualcomm's premium tier processors, and it absolutely flies on the LG G4. So different SoCs will usually mean different GPUs. So the Adreno 405 is found inside of the Moto X Play, while the Style is rocking the Adreno 418, which should equate to better graphical performance. Speaking of performance, let's talk RAM, since the Moto X Play comes with 2GB of DDR3 memory, while the Style comes with 3GB. Wait, 3GB. Now this extra gig of RAM should equate to better multitasking capabilities, and just in general a more fluid performance across the whole OS. Now I am hopefully going to be getting my hands on either one or both of the devices, so I'll be able to test the performance on both and maybe even do a mini review. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And I may even, get Motorola to hit me up with one of the devices in my house. So Motorola, if you're watching this, please, can I have... Anyway, the next difference on the list is battery. So the Moto X Play actually quite interestingly has a larger battery capacity, considering it has less pixels to power along with a less beefy processor. The battery on the Moto X Style has a capacity of 3000 mAh, while a prodigious 3630 mAh battery is found inside of the Moto X Play, which is interesting but quite understandable at the same time, since the Moto X Style is more of a fashion statement, while the Moto X Play is more sort of the phone you would like take out for stuff like adventures, and you know what I mean. But yeah, 3000 mAh is not bad, and it is decent and not less by any means. Speaking of batteries, both the Moto X Style and the Moto X Play have adopted the turbocharging from the last year's iteration of the Moto X. However, the twist is that the Moto X Style has the more improved version of the technology, which allows for 10 hours of usage from just 15 minutes of charge. 10 hours in 15 minutes. That is just insane if you ask me. And because of this, Motorola actually crowned the Moto X Style as the fastest charging phone in the world. And to put that into perspective, the fast charging on the Galaxy S6 provides for only 6 hours of usage in the same amount of time. So yeah, hats off to Motorola there. Shifting over to the optical side of the spectrum, let's talk about the cameras on these new Moto devices. The back of the Moto X Play and Style are both home to a 21 megapixel shooter. However, the difference comes in the video department, where the Moto X Style is capable of pulling off 4K video at 30 frames per second, while the Moto X Play is still stuck at 1080p at the same frame rate. So yeah, definitely expect much sharper video on the Moto X Style. And while we're at it, I might as well go through some other miscellaneous differences between the two handsets. First of all, the Moto X Style has video stabilization, something which the Moto X Play lacks. A few more features which the Moto X Play lacks is a 64GB variant, Bluetooth 4.1, some cellular band connectivity, a front-facing flash, night mode selfies, and many more. And finally, for the price, of course, it's no surprise that since the Moto X Style is the bigger brother with the bolder specs, they'll also have to carry around the bolder price tag as well. So the Style comes in at £359 for the SIM-free base model, while the Moto X Play comes in at £299. So the prices are considerably cheap for the specs you get and the design you get with either of the handsets, but we all know none of them can compete with the real budget smartphone king. So that's going to wrap up this video, guys. Be sure to smash that like button down below if you enjoyed, and also be sure to leave a comment if you have any differences between the Moto X Style and the Moto X Play that I didn't mention in this video, and also subscribe to this channel as well for more tips and videos like this, and I'll talk to you guys in my next one. Thanks for watching. However, this isn't always the case, since by what I've seen, both look like fantastic displays